Today on Teen Titans, we've got another Starfire episode to talk about. It's always nice when we get one of these, because Starfire never really gets an arc in the show. She never really gets her own season, where she's the focus of the opening and their dramatic middle and the climax like the other characters do. We only really get these asides which tell us about her culture and character and show us how she's developed. And so it's always nice when we get an episode like this, one of those asides which show us how her character has grown and developed. The episode opens on a shocking but otherwise light-hearted note. It's a very comedy-heavy episode at the beginning, it turns out. Starfire is packing up all of her things to return to Tamaran because she's been betrothed. She's going to be married. The ruler of her planet has arranged this marriage, and as it is Tamaranian tradition to uphold such unions when they're made, she feels compelled to return, and the other Titans go with her in the T-Sub, which has now been completely retrofitted into a T-spaceship. I don't know if they ever actually call it that or what they actually call it, but that's what it is now. And it's even equipped with multi-vector assault mode, allowing it to split up into a bunch of smaller ships in order to better handle large groups of enemies. It's a really fantastic, useful ability, which is the exact opposite of the Voltron effect, where a bunch of smaller ships combine together into a much larger one, usually shaped like a giant person. And amidst a very humorous Robin meltdown as he's trying to deal with the fact that his almost probably definitely girlfriend is off to get married, it becomes necessary for them to use this capability of their ship in order to fend off some alien ships which seem to be situated around the planet Tamaran. When they arrive, they find out why this is, that this gross snot creature, whose name I do not remember, it sounds like a combination of a burp and a fart, he's got a whole army positioned up there ready to invade, and the only way to stop him is if Starfire marries him. And so the current ruler of the planet, her sister Blackfire, who conquered the planet by force and admits to that outright, has set up this marriage to appease this person. And if you can still see the show through all of the red flags that are being waved in your face, then I'm sure you will agree with Robin that this is a situation that needs to be investigated. He and the Titans do investigate, and they stumble upon the fact that that army isn't even real. It's remote controlled. They could disable it easily from the planet. The snot guy just has a red crystal that Blackfire wants, which will greatly enhance her natural Tamaranian abilities. In short, she is selling off her younger sister to this weird, gross incel guy for jewelry. Holy crap, what a bitch. And between the fact that this arranged marriage is tradition and the fact that all of her people will die if she doesn't go through with this, Starfire intends to go through with it because she's not with the Titans when they figure this out, and Blackfire's forces have kept them apart since. She still thinks all of this is real. Fortunately, she does see Robin being attacked on his way in to try to talk to her, realizes something's up, and decides not to go through with the marriage, challenging Blackfire for the throne and becoming Empress of Tamaran just long enough to hand the crown off to her sort of nanny, sort of adopted father, Galfor. A big, hulking Tamaranian dude who is actually a lot more sensitive than he first seems. He and Starfire have a really close bond, which is mostly shown off in the background of this episode, but it's still really effective. You get the sense that these two really care for and understand each other, and earlier he had said something about following one's heart. And Starfire has realized that her heart is leading her back to Earth. That that's where she feels most at home and most comfortable now. And honestly, I think that once she had gotten here and realized how much she would miss the Earth and her friends, if not for the threat of the alien invasion, I don't think she would have gone through with the arranged marriage anyway, and I think Blackfire realized that, and that's why she had the whole fake invasion thing in place in the first place. This really was just a two birds with one stone kind of situation for Blackfire. She wanted to grossly humiliate her sister and also increase her own power at the same time, and it's honestly a pretty clever plan to do so. I gotta say though, and I'm probably gonna piss some people off by saying this, so please reserve any comments until after I've finished this complete statement. I don't like arranged marriages. I think they're wrong. Like, I'll respect your cultural traditions all day, but any culture which has traditions ingrained within it which strip a person of their personal choice, their right to choose, those traditions are wrong. And that culture is wrong for still having them. I'm sorry, but that's just, you're not going to change my mind on that. Like, I get that arranged marriages aren't as big a deal anymore, and in most cultures now, a woman can choose whether or not to go through with an arranged marriage or move on and make their own choice later. I even have a problem with that, because look at Starfire here. She obviously had a choice. She could have just stayed on Earth. She didn't have to go back at all. But she felt that because that's her people's culture, she should still go through with the arranged marriage. Even before she knew about the invasion, she was still considering going through with this arranged marriage, just because the fact that it's a cultural tradition and that she grew up in that culture has ingrained within her mind that that's what she should do. It's just, every time I hear a story of a young woman who decides to go through with an arranged marriage, I wonder if it was actually her choice or if she was coerced by her very upbringing. And so I really like stories which deal with that topic. I'm always open to my perspective being expanded or even changed by a really good story which tackles that topic well. One of the spin-offs to the Percy Jackson and the Olympians universe, the Magnus Chase trilogy, is an example of a story which handles that kind of thing very well. This episode, though, never really deals with that kind of thing. It brings it up offhandedly. The other Titans bring it up offhandedly, but they don't really explore it at all. And there doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of tension here anyway, because either way, we know Starfire is going back to Earth at the end. We know that the status quo is not going to change that much. And honestly, I consider that to be quite the weakness in an otherwise really strong episode where we find out some pretty cool stuff. This is the first episode where we find out that Starfire, and by extension her sister, are princesses. We also, in one scene, actually hear one of the Tamaranian characters, that Galfor guy, call Starfire by her actual name, Coriander. I actually think that may be the only time we hear the actual given name of any of the Titans in the entire series. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But that is certainly interesting either way. We learn that maybe only while he's here on the planet, because I don't think he ever does it again, like back on Earth or anything, Beast Boy can actually turn into Tamaranian animals. And like I mentioned earlier, the humor in this episode really hits home when the episode is trying to be humorous. There is a tonal shift at about the point when we discover that there's an alien invasion hovering over the planet. But before that, the episode is very humorous, and all of the humor lands pretty well for me. Particularly Robin's meltdown is a lot of fun. And it was super cool to see Starfire fighting against her sister, who, even though she's powered up by this gem thing, Starfire is still able to keep up with because she has learned so much and grown so much thanks to her time on Earth with her friend. That was super neat, and the fight scene was really good. All of the action in this episode, in fact, was really solid. It's a good episode with what I feel is a glaring weakness, but I don't even know if that's a weakness that it could have not had. I don't know if this was ever the right kind of story to delve into the question of the ethics of arranged marriages in the first place. As per usual, though, guys, I'd like to know, what do you think of this episode, if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.